It's the Gospel Bill Show, featuring Gospel Bill, Nicodemus, Elmer Barnes, Miss Lana, EU Duckwater, and the entire Dry Gulch Gang.
Today's episode is a little bit awkward because we're mostly focusing on a single man, a single individual who's in the middle of a huge mess that they admittedly caused, and they know it. This is someone who was in a position of trust. A lot of people put their faith in that person's leadership, and that person took a huge gamble and fucked everything up. But that's enough about David Cameron. No, we're talking about Mighty No. 9, actually. I was at PAX Prime in 2013 when Keiji Inafune made his announcement. The man popularly believed to be the creator of Mega Man, although he actually isn't, had revealed Mighty No. 9, a spiritual successor to the platforming series Capcom itself seemingly had no more interest in. Pegged for spring of 2015, it was a glorious fuck you moment to big publishers, and the excitement at PAX that year was palpable. I still remember the eager buzz among Mega Man fans at the convention, some of whom I was working with at the time, how happy they were at the chance to get a genuine Mega Man experience in a modern era. If only they knew, huh? Mighty No. 9's launch this past week has been, well, disappointing. The game itself has been judged by fan and critic alike as basically mediocre at best, a rare consensus, and while there are those with more extreme opinions on either end, very few can claim that Concept's Mega Man successor was everything it had been cracked up to be. Of course, for many, the release itself was little more than a formality to punctuate 3 years of a slow degradation of trust between fans and Inafune's team. A dismal finale only a handful of truly hardcore believers could have had any faith left for. It's been a long road since PAX 2013, as Mighty No. 9 went from a convention spotlight stealer to one of the highest profile video game crowdfunding disasters in history. When it was first revealed, showing us prototype footage and concept art that tingled the nerve endings of nostalgic backers, Mighty No. 9 hoped to gain $900,000 in Kickstarter funds, and backers, well, they were keen to provide it. However, as Concept's funding grew, so too did its ambition, and this is where the game's problems began. Mighty No. 9 would eventually rake in over $4 million, but it was a massive figure achieved thanks to a sustained increase in promises from Inafune & Co. A huge assortment of stretch goals were announced, a documentary, multiplayer, releases for every single console from portable to PC, much more than any sensible developer would ever actually promise. In addition, the studio was looking for money outside of Kickstarter, courting investors elsewhere to the concern of fans. Things started to look fishy as Concept kept looking for and finding extra money on top of what they were already bringing in. Nevertheless, Inafune was confident and announced in January of 2015 that the game was practically finished. Then came the first big moment of mistrust. In April, news broke that Mighty No. 9 would now have the backing of AAA publisher Deep Silver. As you might expect, it was a pretty dodgy look to find a publisher after raising so much money as an independent effort. On top of that, MN9 had its first delay, moving from spring to September 2015. That would be a result of the massive number of system porting required. The delays would continue from here on out, making Keiji "This is practically done" Inafune look even less reliable. September 2015 became February 2016. February 2016 became Spring 2016. Spring 2016 became July 21st, 2016. That would be the final date Concept would eventually be able to reach. Between delays, fans were further upset by artistic changes made to the game. In July, Mighty No. 9 went from looking like this to this. An alteration that caused major outcry, and with good reason. The original screens and footage looked bold and vibrant, with atmospheric and detailed environmental effects. This new Mighty No. 9 looked, well, well, kinda garbage. Simplistic, lacking the depth of colour we first saw, it had lost its sense of individuality with basic and uninspired character designs. Protagonist Beck went from sleek and stylish ass-kicker to dumpy, gormless goblin, something that looked like he'd come from a rejected PS1 era mascot platformer. Among all this, the studio continued to court controversy by launching a Kickstarter for a totally different project, Red Ash. Oh no, wait. No, it launched 2 Kickstarters, one for a Red Ash game, the other for a Red Ash anime. Now, we've covered the problems with that project separately before, but let's just say Mighty No. 9 backers weren't happy to see Red Ash, while MN9 constantly got delayed. Red Ash itself was dogged by suspect behaviour, ludicrous stretch goals, and eventual failure as the game failed to meet its funding goal. Just as soon as it became clear that Red Ash would not meet its goal, however, Concept revealed it had been picked up by Chinese developer Fuse all of a sudden. You know, it just didn't tell anybody until it was certain backers wouldn't stump up enough green. Though the anime got funded, Red Ash was widely perceived as a desperate catastrophe. Between the money grabbing, the delays, those artistic and graphical changes that were decidedly a downgrade, and a whole other sketchy Kickstarter campaign, Mighty No. 9 steadily and embarrassingly went from a game throngs of fans were excited about to a despised cast-off that people had begun to actively root against. Once thrilled fans started to gleefully envision the game's demise, and the majority opinion was its release could only disappoint at this stage. It was at that point Deep Silver put out a cringeworthy trailer that tried to be edgy and promised you could
make the bad guys cry like an anime fan on prom night.
Yeah, That didn't go over very well. After all this, it'd be nice to say the game launched and proved the world wrong, but it absolutely fucking didn't. Personally, I hated the piece of shit, so much so that I paid Laura Kate to review it for me, and she hated the piece of shit. Other reviews were kinder, but only marginally so, and the game currently sits at a depressing 54 on Metacritic. And maybe it'd be nice to say the fans got it and they loved it regardless, but that absolutely fucking didn't happen either. Maybe because a lot of the fans struggled to even get the thing. As if it wasn't bad enough that the game itself was a total disappointment, its actual launch was nothing short of an unmitigated disaster. First off, Kickstarter backers were receiving broken codes for the game, and some were getting the wrong backer rewards entirely. The Xbox 360 version of the game was quietly delayed until piss knows when, and the Wii U version was a bug-riddled, poorly running, totally failed mess. An official livestream from Concept during the launch was somber and bizarre, with Representative Ben Judd hosting the whole shit show. He accused angry fans of being salty, and when translating for Keiji Inafune during a Q&A, opined that the game we have now is better than nothing, a phrase that many misattributed to Inafune and saw as insult to injury. The poor communication here was possibly a perfect reflection of Mighty No. 9's entire history, but regardless, it was an absolutely stupid bloody thing for anybody associated with the game to say, regardless of who actually said it.
Even if it's not perfect, it's better than nothing.
Even other studios started to make fun of the game, crossing the bounds of professional courtesy. A press release for SteamWorld Heist mocked the prom night goof and promised it was a better game than Concept's offering. A little-known game called Robo's World promised to deliver a better game with 1% of the budget, that the actual developer did follow up and say that had nothing to do with them, that was the PR people. Even Sonic the Hedgehog's official Twitter was making fun of the game. And when Sonic can dunk on you, you done truly fucked up. And that's the short version of Mighty No. 9's history, 3 years of gradual disappointment leading to outright contempt and a conga line of humiliation. People wonder how $4 million could have led to such a letdown of a game, something so visibly ugly with embarrassing dialogue and terrible voice acting. Many have compared it unfavourably to Dust and Elysian Tale, a far better game made by one guy for much less. But let's unpack the $4 million myth before we go any further. Yes, Dust was cheaper and made by one man, but those things go hand in hand. Concept is a studio with full-time paid staff. In fact, Keiji admitted only 60% of the $4 million raised went directly into the game itself. A solo developer living off ramen can absolutely produce a cheaper game. Also, $4 million is a lot of money, but for a studio trying to do everything MN9 tried to do, for a studio trying to do one of those top-tier, sub-AAA indie-level games, it isn't really very much at all. Now, this is no excuse. I'm not excusing Concept here. I'm just saying that everybody asking how 4 million could result in such a shit game are kind of asking the wrong question. Ask instead how any studio of full-time paid staff can produce a shit game, because Concept is far from the first full-time paid studio to have ever done that. Fact is, the money isn't what matters. Money can't buy you talent, it can't buy you good business sense, it can't buy you honesty. These were the things lacking, and the only way money could have fixed it would be if the money were used to fire literally everybody working on Mighty No. 9 and replace them with competent level designers, accomplished artists, and a leader who knew what the fuck they were doing. Because that's what went wrong here. As the phrase now goes, Hideki Kamiya was right when he said Inafune was a businessman, not a creator. He isn't the father of Mega Man, he isn't a great game maker, and his direction on this project was a bloody mess. I'll also add on to what Kamiya said. He's a bad businessman. May have been a good one once upon a time, but nobody could look at this fucking jizz parade and say he's still got the touch. Miscommunication, actions that cause suspicion constantly, serial overpromising that made even Peter Molyneux look conservative. Inafune and his team fucked up every step of the way. And that sucks, because Lord knows Mega Man fans have suffered enough and could have done with this being brilliant. Capcom doesn't give a shit about Mega Man, it should put the poor blue bastard out of his misery for good as far as I'm concerned, but a spiritual successor would be perfect right about now, so that people wouldn't need Mega Man so much. Concept was primed to do it, and just couldn't deliver. Even worse, this whole disaster has yet again cast a shadow of doubt over crowdfunding as a whole. In the wake of Mighty No. 9, I saw plenty of comments now expressing fears about Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and Yooka-Laylee, two games also banking on nostalgia and the love of fallen game franchises. It may not be fair to put so much responsibility on the head of Inafune, but it's an inescapable responsibility. If you're a high-profile Kickstarter project raking in $4 million, your success or failure will reflect on the rest of Kickstarter, and your fucking up puts a lot of other crowdfunded projects at risk. If MN9 was the very first game you'd crowdfunded, I now couldn't blame you for never wanting to risk it again. Why should you trust any other developer with rose-tinted glasses and whimsical promises? That's the bigger tragedy for me. The poisoning of the well that over-promising, over-ambitious, under-delivering projects like Mighty No. 9 inevitably perform, because I, for one, am a huge believer in crowdfunding. Fuck, I've successfully crowdfunded the Jimquisition for almost 100 episodes now, and I've backed many a game on Kickstarter, including Bloodstained and Yooka-Laylee. There have been highly successful Kickstarted games, Undertale, Wasteland 2, Pillars of Eternity, Shovel Knight, but it only takes one large-scale catastrophe to start making people nervous and less willing to part with their doubloons. And in a world where crowdfunding is now a gateway to games and genres that big publishers don't want to touch anymore, that's really sad. This is what makes me so fucking angry about Mighty No. 9. A mess from start to finish, characterised by misdirections, feelings of being misled, and an embarrassing turd of a launch. It makes everybody trying to crowdfund their games look bad. The only silver lining is that all it takes is for another high-profile success to happen to make it look good again, but now the pressure is on Bloodstained and Yooka-Laylee to really knock it out of the park. Perhaps more than ever, because they're gonna have to be excellent as fuck to undo the damage Concept's done. As for Concept, I hope they don't have the gall, the nerve, to use Kickstarter ever again. Inafune traded in his credibility, and I would absolutely not trust that man with a dime. On the plus side, Yooka-Laylee still looks excellent, and Bloodstained, I've played some of that, and that's cool. Feels very solid, feels like a real successor to Castlevania, so that's good. And more importantly, the developers have been very transparent about what they're doing, very upfront. So Bloodstained and Yooka-Laylee should come out and reinstill some faith in crowdfunding, because I feel like a lot of people want to distrust crowdfunding because it is the hot thing, and there are a lot of people always waiting in the wings to prove that Kickstarter's a failure or it's gonna burst its bubble and shit's just not gonna last, and I would be sad if that were the case. I'm a big fan of crowdfunding. I mean, as I said in this episode, this whole shit is crowdfunded. You know, I'm only here being able to say and do as I please without the worry of some overseer because of you people who have, you know, very kindly given me money. Some of you, you know, some of you are just watching for free, you fucking parasites. That was a joke. That was a joke. I mean, I surprised myself with my own goof. I've been goof-bushed by myself, I'm sorry. Thank God for you all, whether you're backing or not. I appreciate you watching and enjoying the show, if you do enjoy it. If not, you're a fucking prick, so thank God for me. The UK's fucked.
Do you know that your mind has to eat? Someone says, oh, Gospel Bill, I don't cram food into my mind. Oh, yes, you do. You may not eat food like you'd feed your body, but you feed your mind some kind of thought, because the thoughts that you think on are the food that your mind feeds on. And it's important that we feed our minds the right thing. Boy, I've got a big, delicious-looking bowl of something here. Let me smell of it. I don't think I want to eat this. This is dog food.